She awoke in an incredible penthouse. 7 shocking truths about the billionaire who changed her life. Emily jolted awake, blinking in disbelief at the sparkling chandeliers overhead. The lavish penthouse was a scene from a movie, light glinting off designer furnishings, and the sprawling view of Central Park sprawled beneath her. Confusion surged within her like a wave. Last night was a blur of laughter and clinking glasses, barely a whisper of the life she lived. A single mother, a waitress, buried beneath the demands of city life. She never expected to feel at home in a space like this. But as she recalled fragments of the night, a chance encounter with the enigmatic Jack, a nagging question cropped up. What would she sacrifice to stay in this world? And was it even worth it? Rain battered against the tall windows, a stark reminder that beyond this opulence lay her reality, the small apartment that hummed with the laughter of her 7-year-old son, Noah, waiting for her like a shadow at the end of a long day. Her heart twisted. Did she want this? She could almost taste the ambition that had long been buried under the weight of laundry, school drop-offs, and balancing tips with bills like a circus act. Jack, with his quiet brilliance, stirred something deep within her. A longing? An ache? She couldn't fully grasp it yet. All she felt was the pull of desire intermingling with an unshakable fear of losing herself in a world of privilege that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emily's mind raced, tangled between admiration and dread. Jack's words lingered as he revealed the truth of his philanthropy, the deep-rooted tragedy that had shaped him as a man. With each story he shared, she felt layers of her own struggles peel away, exposing raw ambition stifled by the demands of motherhood. Could she weave together a life rooted in her values while stepping into a world riddled with glittering opportunities? Her breath quickened. Memories of her humble dinners with Noah, no distractions, just them and dreams simple but illuminating, clashed with the vibrant life Jack painted for her. Could she abandon the familiar warmth that nourished her soul? But what if embracing this life meant igniting a passion she thought extinguished? Just then, she learned of a tangled family dispute that threatened to cast shadows on Jack's charitable endeavors, drawing tighter ropes of doubt around her heart. All these visions of greatness began to feel like shackles, each revelation darkening the once hopeful canvas of their connection. Standing by the window, torn between wanting to know more and fearing the implications, she offered a final question, her voice shaky yet determined. Is it worth it if we lose what makes us who we are? The city bustled below, indifferent to their burgeoning complexities, leaving the air thick with anticipation as they both faced a future undefined, teetering on the edge of change that could shatter everything they had always known. Emily's heart pounded as she awaited Jack's response. He regarded her with an intensity that both destabilized and invigorated her spirit. The silence pulsed like a living thing, each second stretching into an eternity. She could feel the weight of her questions settling over them, heavy with unspoken implications that hovered in the air like the mist from the rain outside. Every choice comes with a price, he finally said, his voice low, almost gravelly. I've lost track of what I should value in the times I didn't stay true to myself. I don't want that for you. The raw honesty emanating from Jack felt like an electric charge, igniting something dormant within her. Then how do we safeguard who we are? She asked, a hint of desperation threading through her words. By understanding that we're the ones in control of our narratives, he replied, a subtle hint of ferocity in his gaze. It's about finding the balance between the influence of this world and the essence of who we are. Emily felt a flicker of hope dancing within her. Jack's struggles mirrored her own in a way she had never anticipated. They shared an unspoken bond forged in the fires of uncertainty, and it ignited a sense of possibility. Perhaps she could embrace this life without discarding her sense of self. As she considered his words, she envisioned her life back in the cramped apartment with Noah, his laughter, his innocent dreams, the soft glow they shared in the warmth of their ordinary evenings. Yet, a new vision emerged. Nights spent brainstorming initiatives, working alongside Jack to uplift communities, creating their own version of success. Could she redefine her ambition without losing the warmth of her own life? A sudden realization struck her. She had been living life based on limitations rather than possibilities. The very excitement she felt at being in Jack's world was also fueled by fear of leaving her comfort zone. As an opportunity to help others loomed before her, Emily recognized that personal growth often resided in embracing discomfort. With each heartbeat, a new ambition unfurled just beneath the surface. In a moment of clarity, she turned to him. If we do this, if we take a step into this world together, how do we ensure we remain grounded? What is the assurance that this isn't just a fleeting dream for me? Jack regarded her thoughtfully, and for a heartbeat, Emily wished for certainty. But she soon realized that the strength was not in promises, but in the choices they would make together. It would be their actions that would sculpt their reality, not mere words. A dangerous exhilaration coursed through her, cleansing the doubt that had plagued her. "I want you to remain who you are, Emily," he stated firmly, a promise echoing in his tone. "Your vision is as important as mine." Nodding slowly, Emily felt newfound determination solidify within her. The stakes were high, but this path bore the potential for transformation individually, and perhaps even together. She was already shifting from passive observer to active participant in her own evolution. But the looming shadows of Jack's family conflict gnawed at the edges of her consciousness. Just then, her phone buzzed on the table, an unforeseen alert cutting through their moment of clarity. It was a message from Noah's school, the kind of news a parent feared receiving. Emily's stomach twisted as her heart raced, brimming with the need to maintain balance between her growing aspirations and her responsibilities at home. She hastily opened the message, the weight of her dual life pressing heavier upon her. Jack noticed the sudden change in her demeanor, concern etched across his face. "What is it?" The urgency of his question drummed against her spirit. "I don't know if I can do both yet," she said, her voice tightening. "Not after this." The moment felt suspended, and she realized their conversation about future ambitions could take a turn she hadn't anticipated. Would she have the courage to pursue her desires while facing the realities of her current life? As she contemplated her next steps, uncertainty metamorphosed into challenge, and the tension coiled within her, daring but sharply binding. Emily exchanged a glance with Jack, the air thick with expectations unspoken. The moment was rife with potential to either spiral into chaos or rise with resolve. She could feel her heart racing, alive with the understanding that great strides require immense risk. "I need to take care of this," she muttered, her mind already racing ahead of the task at hand. The call of responsibility stood firm, but as she turned away, determination flickered brightly in her chest. In that pivotal moment, she felt herself on the precipice of something life-altering, the merging of worlds threatening to consume her, but also promising liberation. With a single deep breath, she plunged headfirst into her next move. What awaited beyond this new threshold transcended her past hardships and beckoned her toward a future rife with possibility. But for every step she took forward, shadows of doubt still loomed large. Would she unearth parts of herself she never knew existed, or would she lose herself in the whirlwind? As she pushed open the door to her new path, the haunting question remained. Could she navigate the delicate dance of ambition and accountability without succumbing to the gripping tide of self-doubt? As Emily stepped outside, the brisk air filled her lungs, awakening a determination she hadn't known she possessed. Each step felt purposeful as she headed toward Noah's school, her mind racing through a convoluted network of feelings. She had always prioritized her son's stability. Now, the prospect of her own aspirations pressed in on her like the weight of an iron door. Walking down the busy street, she could hear the distant hum of conversations, cars zipping by, lives unfolding in parallel to her own. The bustling city felt both overwhelming and invigorating. She had often found solace in routine, yet today was different. Today was a confrontation with herself, a reckoning of her roles as both a mother and an emerging individual. Arriving at the school, Emily's stomach tightened. What awaited her inside would determine not just her immediate actions, but the trajectory of her life. As she entered the building, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, intensifying the anxiety that gnawed at her. She glanced around, seeking normalcy amid chaos. The cheerful chaos of children filled her ears, yet she felt strangely out of sync, as though she were walking through a dream. The principal's office was an oasis of calm in comparison. She met with the principal, her professional demeanor contrasting sharply with the whirlpool of emotions inside her. "We received a report about some bullying," he said gently. "Noah has been affected. We're working on solutions, but I thought you'd want to know." Beneath the surface of the disappointment and concern, a storm of defensive instincts flared within Emily. Was she failing? Her heart ached at the thought of Noah enduring pain, but deeper down, a spark ignited. This wasn't just about him. It was about her, too. Each time she let any obstacle define her, whether it was money, fear, or others' perceptions, she was, in truth, spending a piece of herself. "I appreciate you bringing this to me," Emily answered. Her voice surfaced above the chaos inside, grounded and confident. "How can I assist in resolving this?" As the principal outlined a plan, she found herself listening intently, mentally crafting a pathway that would allow her to navigate this new challenge without losing herself. This was her first step into active participation rather than passive observation. Later, walking out with a plan formulated in her mind, she allowed her thoughts to turn back to Jack. His words about owning their narratives echoed throughout her consciousness. This was her narrative, and she had the power to mold it. The conflict at school was a reminder of her responsibilities, yes, but also a call to courage. What had sparked within her earlier the possibility of collaboration and aspiration began to intertwine with her current reality. Emily envisioned not just fighting for her son, but shaping a more profound existence where advocacy would become a dual concept, helping Noah, while also serving her greater purpose alongside Jack. But as she turned down a quieter street, her phone buzzed in her pocket again, a message from Jack. He wanted to discuss ideas for initiatives they could launch together. A swell of conflicting emotions coursed through her. Was she truly ready for this leap? The prospect both thrilled and terrified her. Taking a deep breath, she reached for the phone, her fingers trembling slightly. What if Jack's world intertwined with hers in ways that felt overwhelming rather than enriching? Would she drown in the deep end, or would she learn to swim? The comforting routine she had known was about to be disrupted, and for every effort to shape her new identity, a darker thought lingered: what if success came at too high a price? As she started typing a response, her heart raced. Could she establish boundaries that honor her role as a mother while diving into her burgeoning desires? The stakes were elevating, the invisible lines she'd drawn around her existence beginning to blur. The looming confrontation with the self-doubt she had tried to outrun became undeniable. With every word she typed, she felt the weight of her choices bearing down. Would her ambitions elevate her above the fray, or would they pull her under? A sudden sense of resolve surged through her as she hit send, prompting Jack to engage more deeply in their plans. She must embrace her fears, navigating the balance she desperately sought. But just as the excitement built, a nagging thought tugged at her. In her pursuit of these new endeavors, what if she lost the core pieces of herself that defined her most deeply? Emily stood at the edge of an evolving landscape, poised between possibilities. Would the risks she took illuminate her path, or would she find herself lost amid the shadows of her choices? As she stepped forward into the unknown, the intensity of her journey began anew, paving the way for an inevitable confrontation with her deepest fears and desires. Emily stood on the sidewalk, staring at her phone, the screen glowing with Jack's message. Each word felt heavy with promise. They were no longer just ideas, but a bridge to her future. This was a chance to explore her ambitions beyond motherhood, but the weight of uncertainty gripped her tightly. Would this new venture align with who she was becoming, or lead her astray? With determination creeping back into her veins, she slipped the phone into her pocket and headed home. The familiar streets seemed to morph around her, the hum of life reverberating with potential. She had been so focused on Noah's well-being that she hadn't stopped to consider her own growth. Would she always hold herself back? Could she be the mother Noah needed, while also carving out a space for herself? Upon entering her apartment, the echo of her thoughts reverberated off the walls, bouncing between the kitchen and living room like an uninvited guest. As Emily prepared a simple dinner, Her mind danced between past routines and the tantalizing possibilities ahead. Cooking had always been an act of love, a mechanism of control in her otherwise chaotic life. But now, with each chop and stir, she envisioned a new role that would allow her to flourish. Noah's laughter echoed from the living room, a soothing balm against her internal storm. She peeked in on him, sprawled on the floor, engrossed in his building blocks. His focus brought her peace. The innocence of his world seemed to reaffirm her desire to create a better one not only for him, but for herself as well. Over dinner, Emily mustered the courage to mention her conversation with Jack. The way Noah's face lit up made her heart swell. "I think I might be able to help some kids, just like you," she said cautiously. His excitement was palpable, and for the first time, she saw the potential of her aspirations through his eyes. "Can I help?" he asked, eyes wide with expectation. The sincerity in his tone marked a pivotal moment. Instead of shying away from her ambitions, she could embrace them alongside him. Life wasn't about choosing one over the other. It was about entwining their journeys. After dinner, she cleared away the plates, her mind spinning with the weight of the day's decisions. She needed clarity, a deeper understanding of how to integrate her newfound ambitions into her life. As she settled into the couch with a notebook and pen, ideas began to splinter off like branches. What if their initiatives focused on kindness and acceptance at Noah's school? She feverishly wrote down concepts about workshops where kids could share stories, promoting empathy and teamwork. Jack's experience would add credibility, while Noah's perspective could keep the mission grounded. The thought brought a smile to her face, a fusion of her aspirations and Noah's environment, tailored to help shape a better space for them both. But as Emily penned her dreams, an unsettling thought struck her. What if the world she was stepping into only amplified the chaos she had long tried to escape? Doubts gnawed at the edges of her resolve, but she pushed them aside. Self-doubt would arise, she knew. It was part of the process. After late-night brainstorming, she sent an outline to Jack. The tension between excitement and fear sparked within her, igniting a drive she hadn't fully recognized until now. This moment was more than a new project. It was establishing her identity. But as she shut her laptop, the flickering light forced her to confront the question lingering just below the surface. What if, in seeking her new path, she stumbled upon the very challenges she feared most? As sleep settled around her, Emily wondered whether she was prepared for the storm ahead. The unfolding situation held promises of growth, yet risks of losing balance haunted her dreams. The very essence of her burgeoning self would be tested beyond the safe walls of her current reality. The horizon of her ambitions beckoned, and a reality she had never envisioned now seemed within reach. However, as Emily lay in bed, she felt the shadow of uncertainty, lurking, ready to challenge her every step into this uncharted territory. Would she rise to the occasion, or retreat back to the comforting confines of her old life? The answer hovered just out of grasp, waiting for dawn's first light. The morning sun streamed through the curtains, spilling golden light across Emily's cluttered kitchen. She opened her eyes slowly, feeling its warmth seep into her bones, coaxing her from the depths of restless sleep. Last night had been a whirlwind of thoughts, insecurities intertwining with fierce aspirations. How was she supposed to navigate this new chapter when everything felt so unpredictable? After a quick breakfast, she took a moment to review her plan. The outline she had sent to Jack sat heavy in her mind, but today, it felt like a tangible piece of her future rather than an elusive dream. Emily smiled as she scribbled a few adjustments to her ideas. She was beginning to see the direction clearer. The hesitation that had initially clouded her thoughts was slowly dissipating. But the usual rhythm of her day was soon interrupted. Noah burst into the kitchen, his small face lit with unfiltered excitement. "Mom, can I build a rocket ship today?" The question struck Emily as a perfect metaphor for her own ambitions. "Of course you can," she responded, her voice betraying a newfound enthusiasm. "How about we build something together?" The thought of collaboration excited her. It was a chance not just to foster Noah's creativity, but also to reinforce her commitment to being present in both their lives. While Noah gathered his building blocks, Emily noticed a growing tension in her stomach. Would he be able to understand why she wanted to help other children? Could she explain her vision without overwhelming him? Conjuring every ounce of patience, she set aside her worries and focused on the moment. As they worked side by side, Emily felt moments of doubt flit in and out of her mind. She allowed herself to reflect on what their new initiative could look like, how it might progress beyond the imagination and into action. Maybe they could create not just workshops, but events that brought families together, a community manifestation of acceptance and understanding. The thought of community ignited a fire within her. What if her ideas could extend further, reaching far beyond just Noah's school? As they built, she found herself planning potential outreach, outlining strategies she would use to approach other parents, teachers, and even local businesses. Each block they stacked mirrored her thoughts, a physical representation of her burgeoning vision taking shape. Yet, doubts still danced in the periphery. What if she failed to follow through on her plans? Who am I to think I can change anything? The thought gripped her momentarily, a reminder of the years spent prioritizing Noah's needs over her own desires. "Mom, look." Noah's cheerful voice broke her chain of thought as he held up his rocket ship, a delightfully chaotic structure that leaned dangerously to one side. Her heart swelled as she admired his efforts. "It's perfect," she exclaimed, a genuine smile plastered across her face. In that moment, Emily realized her aspirations mirrored Noah's creation, unpolished but bursting with potential. It didn't have to be flawless to make an impact. Maybe embracing imperfection was the very lesson she needed to share with both Noah and herself. As the day unfolded, she leaned into this revelation, beginning to connect the dots between her ambitions and motherhood. The act of creating alongside Noah allowed her to navigate the intricate balance she was striving for. This synergy could enhance their relationship while also fostering her individuality. Later, as the afternoon sun began to set, Emily sat down to research local organizations, determined to reach out to Jack and share her evolving ideas. There was a sense of urgency brewing within her, an acknowledgement that the longer she delayed taking real action, the more her dreams might slip away. Yet, just as she began to feel empowered by her choices, an unexpected message popped up on her phone. "We need to talk, Emily. It's important." Jack's words were stark, piercing through the sense of accomplishment she had just begun to build. The weight of her ambitions suddenly felt heavy. Again, balanced precariously on the edge of fear. What could this mean for the plan she had been so passionate about? Would it derail everything she was starting to embrace, or was it merely a bump in the road? Emily's heart raced with uncertainty as possibilities flickered through her mind. Was she truly ready for whatever was coming next? Emily paced the floor of her kitchen, nerves dancing in her stomach as she pulled her phone from her pocket. Jack's message lingered in her mind, each word a weight that pulled her thoughts in myriad directions. Her enthusiasm for the future had been bright and shining, but now shadows crept in, threatening to overtake her resolve. She took a deep breath and forced herself to refocus. What do I need to gain clarity? The question rang in her mind as she opened a notebook, splattering her ideas across the pages with frantic energy. They were the framework of her passion, thoughts woven together with strands of determination. As she penned email drafts to local organizations, her heart raced with uncertainty, but it was now overshadowed by a need for action. The message had thrown her, but the potential of her endeavors lifted her spirits again. Emily envisioned children laughing while learning. She imagined families attending workshops filled with creativity and connection. Yet she couldn't escape the specter of fear. Would Jack disapprove? Would he see her new ambitions as frivolous? The potential of rejection gnawed at her, biting deep into her determination. With each word she typed, she felt her inner critic rise up again, whispering, "What if you're not good enough? What if they laugh at you?" She paused, staring at the blinking cursor on the screen, unsure if she should write another word. Resolutely, Emily pushed back against the self-doubt. If she halted now, she risked losing everything she had just started to build with her life. She pushed through the unease, making the emails concise, enthusiastic. Just as she was preparing to hit send, Noah's laughter echoed from the living room. He was engaged in his own imaginary world, a place where rockets soared and adventures unfolded, uninhibited by fear. Suddenly, Emily had an epiphany. Children do not withhold their dreams out of fear. They leap into the unknown with abandon. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, infused with the spirit of childish wonder. Imagine the stories they could create, the connections we could forge. With each sentence, she untangled her fears and infused vitality into what had previously felt paralyzing. This project wasn't just about community outreach. It was about offering children a chance to dream and cultivate their imaginations. As she took a moment to reflect, an unexpected realization gripped her heart. She was transforming before her very own eyes. The Emily who had timidly wandered through life out of obligation had risen to seize her right to create, to inspire, and to mold a vision that was vividly her own. But what if Jack does see it differently? A nagging voice prodded equally. This was the crux of her dilemma, stepping into this new identity while clutching her old fears tightly. Just then, the following message from Jack vibrated again on her phone. "Can you meet me at the cafe? I have something important to discuss." Emily's pulse quickened, thrumming in rhythm with her escalating anxiety. The cafe was their usual haunt, a place laced with memories of past collaborations. Would today change everything? Was her venture in jeopardy? She felt a hard knot forming in her throat. With a determined inhale, she understood that confronting her fears head-on was her only option. Meeting Jack could either solidify her resolve or create greater uncertainty, yet she couldn't ignore the urgency of her vision. She had to go. No more hiding behind hesitation. As Emily made her way out the door, she felt an internal shift, a sense of power building within her, coupled with an exhilarating fear of the unknown. Would Jack support her, or would he question her newfound ambitions? She stepped outside and felt an invigorating gust of wind. Emily was ready for the fight, even if the outcome was unpredictable. This was not merely about a conversation, but about defining the person she wanted to become. But as she approached the cafe, a flicker of anxiety thwarted her confidence. What if Jack had made his decision without her? What if she was about to lose it all? With determination in her stride, Emily moved forward, her heart pounding as she opened the door, teetering on the edge of self-revelation. The moment had come. What awaited her beyond that threshold? As Emily stepped into the cafe, the familiar aroma of roasted coffee and baked goods enveloped her. The chatter of patrons melded into a comforting hum, but her heartbeat resonated with the tumult brewing within. She scanned the room, her eyes finding Jack seated at their usual corner table, a pensive expression marking his features. Instinctively, she adjusted her posture. Recalling the purpose of her journey, this meeting could unravel her cautious optimism or galvanize it further. "Hey, Emily," Jack greeted, forcing a smile as she approached. Yet even in his friendly tone, she sensed an undercurrent of trepidation. The way his fingers drummed against the table hinted at an agitation that mirrored her own. "Jack," she replied, sliding into the seat opposite him. "What is up?" His gaze dropped, studying the intricate patterns on the table's surface. "I've been thinking a lot about the project you mentioned," he began, his voice cautious. "You have such passion, but I worry it might not be practical." A wave of disappointment washed over her, but as she struggled to contain her reaction, it dawned on Emily that she had inadvertently expected this response. Deep down, she had feared it. The familiar shadows of doubt loomed, whispering doubts in her mind. Yet she steadied herself, drawing from wellsprings of determination she had only recently discovered. "Jack, it's not just some fleeting idea. It's important to me. It's about fostering creativity and imagination," Emily articulated, her voice firm. "I can't ignore what I envision any longer." Sensing some strength in her conviction, she leaned in, eyes locked onto his. "This can make a difference." Jack appeared to struggle as he processed her words. He rubbed the back of his neck, a contemplative gesture that only intensified her resolve. "I get that, but what if people don't respond the way you hope? What if it just stalls out?" Eager to refute his doubts, Emily recalled the laughter of children and the vibrant possibility of her vision. "What if," she countered, "it ignites a spark in them? What if we create opportunities for exploration and learning? Isn't that worth the risk?" She felt something shift within her, a realization that she was effectively advocating for her own dreams now, rather than bending them to another's expectations. Jack finally met her gaze, the intensity of her passion inching into his perspective. Yet she could see he was grappling with his own fears. "You're right about one thing," he finally admitted. "You're passionate. I respect that. But sometimes, Passion alone isn't enough. The truth hit her like a jolt. As much as Jack had always been a supportive ally, this was a moment where he represented the tethering her to conventionality and safety. Emily recognized that this was no longer just about her aspirations. It was tied to his notions of practicality. But what did that say about her ambitions? The exchange created a backdrop of uncertainty for what could unfold. She saw herself in his eyes, a version of herself that was still afraid, still concerned about failure. Yet as invigorating resolve blossomed, it also set the stage for conflict. Jack's hesitation pushed her towards a revelation. Perhaps she hadn't just come for validation of her plans, but to confront her own limits. "Then let me prove it to you," she said decisively, her voice finding strength in conviction. "Give me a chance to show you what I can create. I need to do this for me, and for those kids who deserve a chance to dream." Jack blinked at her challenge. The air thickened with promise, and the stakes felt heightened. "Okay," he finally relented. "I'll support you, but I want to be involved. This can't just be your thing. There has to be structure." As they mapped out the project together, Emily felt a cascade of emotions. Fear still lingered, but she was also beginning to chisel away at the constraints of her previous self. With Jack's involvement, she discovered not just a shared vision, but her growing capacity to lead. Yet beneath this newfound partnership lay the uncertainty of intertwining her ambitions with someone who still held so many of her old fears. As plans unfurled between them, the question loomed: how long could she meld her growing independence with their evolving partnership? With her heart a mix of excitement and apprehension, Emily left the cafe, knowing this was just the beginning. The steering wheel of her future was no longer solely in Jack's hands. But could she truly navigate this path without losing her essence? As she walked away, determination surged within her. Knowing she still had much to prove, she silently worried about the moment that might reveal the kind of friction they hadn't yet imagined. The brewing conflict could shape them both, and Emily sensed it was only a matter of time before they would face something neither of them expected. The next morning dawned, and Emily awoke with a sense of urgency that propelled her from bed. Sunlight streamed through the window, but her mind was heavy with thoughts about her meeting with Jack. Their conversation echoed painfully, leaving behind a mix of excitement and doubt that tangled in her chest like a nest of wires. She dressed quickly. Her usual wardrobe felt now like a remnant of her old self, a self that had been content to follow rather than lead. Today, as she stared into the mirror, she forced herself to question that complacency. Who was she becoming? What did she truly believe in? The desire to create a space for imagination wasn't just a hobby. It was an awakening. Coffee became her first priority as she joined the morning rush of the small cafe, where she worked part-time, her grounding space amidst an ever-evolving life. Pouring steaming coffee into ceramic mugs, she caught snippets of conversations between patrons, snippets of their lives filled with urgency and necessity. Unsure why, the thought struck her that if she didn't infuse her own life with the same vigor, she might let another opportunity slip away quietly. "Emily, the regular?" Marissa, her co-worker, asked, disrupting her thoughts. "Yeah," she replied absently, the same routine falling from her lips like a programmed response. Routine, the very anchor that had both cradled and confined her. An idea sparked in her mind. What if, she thought, I could use this cafe, this community as a springboard? Perhaps the children and families in her neighborhood needed a point of connection and exploration just like she did. Emily's heart raced at the potential of the idea. This was a chance for her to breathe life into her plans practically. With her shift ending, she grabbed her notebook and wrote fervently. Ideas pooled like ink on the page, each revealing a layer of her aspirations: workshops, art displays, interactive sessions. Instinctively, she could feel Jack's skepticism creeping in, but she pushed it away. "Forget him," she muttered under her breath, tasting the bitterness of doubt mixed with the sweetness of resolve. As dusk settled, her mind churned with the details. She needed a space somewhere vibrant enough to attract attention, yet safe enough to inspire creativity. Could the cafe itself play a role? Was her boss open to the idea? The next day, buoyed by adrenaline and a prayer, she approached her boss, Frank. "I have a proposal," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. She outlined her vision, gauging Frank's reactions carefully. To her surprise, he listened intently, nodding occasionally, the furrow of his brow indicating he was already considering potential hurdles. "It's ambitious," he replied eventually, "but this place could use a bit of renewing energy." For the first time, Emily felt that familiar ball of doubt loosen its grip. She enlisted his help in refining her ideas, laying out the logistics that would make her plans more concrete. The conversation allowed her to defend her vision, to bravely dispense with the fears that Jack had planted, and soon Frank was suggesting connections with local artists, educators, and community leaders who could lend their expertise. Yet as excitement unfurled, so did a creeping realization. Her idea was blossoming, but she had inadvertently progressed beyond her partnership with Jack. Would he see this as a betrayal or a compliment to his own insistence on structure? With newfound momentum, Emily immersed herself in program planning, but each late night spent polishing details left her torn. She appreciated that Jack wanted to help. She really did. Yet, the thought of relinquishing any part of her growing independence churned anxiously in her stomach. That evening, she returned to her apartment, pen in hand, ready to jot down thoughts about potential presentations when the ominous weight of the inevitable confrontation settled over her. She would have to tell Jack. Could she hold on to her budding agency and still welcome him into her vision? As she drove herself to prepare, questions flooded her mind. Would he celebrate her empowerment, or would his insecurities overshadow their collaborative spirit? A nervous energy thrummed beneath her skin, anticipating the moment their intertwined paths would finally collide again. Her aspirations and his pragmatism were poised for a collision. The intermingling threads of their ambitions hung in the balance, waiting to unravel into clarity or chaos. What would happen when she faced the mounting pressure of their diverging visions? The moment of truth was closing in fast. Emily awoke to the sound of her phone vibrating impatiently on the bedside table. The sunlight streamed through the window, but instead of feeling invigorated, she felt a weight pressing down on her chest. The conversation with Jack had turned over and over in her mind, each replay spiraling deeper into doubt. Today was the day she would confront him, and the thought sent nerves skittering throughout her frame. As she dressed, she glanced at the mirror, determination stitching her brow. It was no longer about simply stepping out of her comfort zone. It was about defining who she was becoming. Her vision needed to take root, and now was the time to show Jack that she was no longer content to fall in line. At the cafe, she maneuvered through the morning rush, the air thick with the scent of brewed coffee and pastries. Each order she took felt like a countdown to a confrontation that loomed larger in her mind. How could she express her desires without alienating Jack? She was starting to see that every cup served was a metaphor for her life, rich with potential, but often held back by fear. Marissa, sensing Emily's tension, leaned in as they wiped down tables. "You all right? You seem off." Emily forced a smile, holding tight to her thoughts like precious stones. "Just a big day ahead. Trying to keep my head clear." She could feel excitement bubbling beneath her surface despite the apprehension. Ideas for her project swirled in her brain as if waiting in line to be acknowledged. At least the cafe had given her a rehearsal space for what was to come. After her shift ended, she settled into a corner booth with her notebook and began mapping out her presentation for Jack. Logic and creativity began to dance together on the pages, strategies and dreams leapfrogging over one another. The more she wrote, the more clarity she gained about her own path. Each detailed plan felt like a rebuttal to Jack's doubts. "Mind if I join?" Frank's voice interrupted her focus. "Not at all," she replied, eager to receive his support. As they discussed logistics further, Frank's enthusiasm was infectious, and for a moment, her worries about Jack's reaction subsided. Their collaborative spirit blossomed into something tangible, a testament to Emily's vision that resonated beyond her own doubts. Yet, as much as the conversation buzzed with energy, the reality of Jack's inevitable response haunted her. Their destinies had crossed paths only to veer in opposing directions, and it left her feeling like a traitor. When the day wound down, Emily stood outside her apartment, heart pounding. The time had come. She pondered the possible scenarios of that fateful conversation. Would he listen? Would he understand? Taking a deep breath, she opened the door and called out, "Jack." His footsteps echoed from the other room, moments stretching to infinity. When he appeared, The look on his face revealed apprehension mixed with curiosity. "What is on your mind?" he asked, eyeing the tension swirling around them. She could feel the hours of preparation dissolving into the air. In his presence, the calm she crafted crumbled, replaced by the urgency to reveal herself. "I want to discuss something important." That simple phrase rang like a bell through the quiet space. The contours of their relationship hung heavily in the air, fraught with potential and pitfalls. She had built a world around her aspirations, but how much of that world could she share without losing herself? An electric silence followed, thick with unspoken words. What was she to him now? As she gathered her courage, the risk of their waning partnership loomed like a dark cloud. Would he embrace her journey or set fire to it in an effort to reclaim his vision? The moment of truth had arrived, and Emily could feel the weight of expectation pressing down upon them, ready for the revelation that would change everything. Would it bring them closer or push them apart? The question loomed, and as she prepared to speak, a gnawing doubt gripped her heart. Could she handle the outcomes of her own awakening? Emily stood in front of Jack, a wave of emotions coursing through her. The air was thick with anticipation. A moment of potential redefined their relationship hung precariously in balance. She took a deep breath, clutching her notebook tightly, and steeled herself for the impending conversation. "Jack," she began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I've been working on our vision on a community initiative, and it's beginning to take shape." Jack's brows furrowed, and she could feel the shift in his demeanor, a mixture of concern and curiosity. She pressed on, "I've been brainstorming ways to engage kids creatively, to foster empathy and acceptance in schools. I truly believe it can make a difference." His gaze weighed heavy on her, and with each word, she felt the power of her evolution surge. This was her passion, no longer just an idea, but a manifestation of what she yearned to accomplish. Yet Jack's hesitance seeped from his silence. "That's great, Emily, but how do you plan to integrate this with everything else?" The question nudged an old doubt within her, but she pushed back, fueled by the knowledge of her capabilities. "I've mapped everything out. We can work together on this. It doesn't have to be just your way or mine. This is about blending our visions." His mouth curled into a thoughtful frown, a potent reminder of how stark their views seemed to be. "Are you sure you're ready for this? It will take a significant commitment." The doubt clawed at her, but in that moment, it became apparent that this was not simply his apprehension. It was an opportunity for her to advocate for what she knew she could achieve. "I understand the risks," she replied, her voice gaining strength. "But if I don't take this step, I'll never really know what I can create. I'm not just a waitress, Jack. I'm a mother with aspirations that deserve to be realized." The statement, encompassing her identity in a single breath, hung between them. Jack leaned back, the seriousness of her words settling like dust around them. "What changes are you prepared to make?" he finally questioned, his intensity steady yet cautious. Her heart filled with resolve. This was where the conversation needed to shift. "In embracing this, I'm not giving up who I am. I'm finding a way to weave our ambitions together, to explore this new territory without sacrificing my responsibility to Noah or myself." Jack seemed to absorb the weight of her conviction, the walls he had built around his doubts beginning to overlap with the potential she projected. For the first time, Emily felt the shift in their dynamic. Yes, there's uncertainty, she acknowledged softly, but that uncertainty isn't just daunting, it's liberating. As their conversation unfolded, she could see Jack wrestling with his own preconceived notions. This was a metamorphosis for both of them. They were navigating their identities entwined in mutual respect. The silence that followed was profound, more vibrant than the chatter that filled busy city streets outside. Jack broke it first, leaning slightly forward, his expression softened. "I think I've been holding on too tightly to what I thought was possible," he admitted. "I see the spark in you, Emily. I don't want to hinder it." The sincerity in his admission resonated deeply. As they began to sketch plans, mapping out their combined vision for workshops and initiatives underpinned by acceptance and creativity, Emily felt a renewed surge of empowerment. With each passing minute, the weight that had once tethered her began to lift. She envisioned not just the outcomes of their collaboration, but also the journey ahead. A mutual understanding formed in this delicate balance of ambition and shared purpose. When the conversation came to a close, They both exhaled heavily, simultaneously aware that this moment had catalyzed profound change. Emily's heart swelled with pride. She had taken control of her narrative. Jack now recognized her as a partner, a force of nature in tandem with the ambitions they each cherished. Walking home later, the city illuminated around her, Emily embraced a tangible sense of fulfillment that wrapped itself around her like a soft blanket. She was no longer at war with her identity. She had aligned her desires with her responsibilities. The horizon bore possibilities that transcended anything she envisioned in the depths of her doubts. She felt buoyant, confidence threading through her like a lifeline, recognizing that nurturing both her son and her ambitions wasn't just feasible. It was essential to her fulfillment. Stepping into her apartment, she found Noah sprawled on the floor, his laughter filling the space with warmth. Kneeling beside him, she wrapped her arms around him, whispering, "We're going to create something incredible together." As they began to discuss their own imaginative projects, a newfound clarity settled within her. Emily had conquered her fears, forging a path that entwined both the ambitions she had reclaimed and the responsibilities that were her heart's foundation. She had achieved the balance she longed for. At that moment, she knew she would be able to nurture her passions without losing herself. The future was no longer daunting. It beckoned with open arms. Now is the time for you to take your own journey of transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. I want to hear your thoughts. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to support our community of storytellers.